Morning, let's start the session. So last session we discussed about working with events, various basic events I had given you. We learned about how to handle the events. So JavaScript events. Yeah. So in the browser events, I've given you overview on host events, key events, miscellaneous events, how to handle them. So one more point here is, after understanding that generally when you are dealing with events, you need to know about some important events like on blur, like on focus, and on submit, on reset, like events. On blur, on focus, on submit, and on reset. These are important events. Generally, so what is the purpose of these events and how to handle them? Actually, on blur and focus are nothing but they indicate what actions to perform when control gets focus or control loses the focus. That's the point. So we will see one simple example for that. So let's take an example of blur and focus like this. I will just put this one. Let's add a new file. So blur HTML, okay. And design a page, HTML, head, title. So demo something. And in the body section, we are defining some field set, legend, some register, data list, so data term, some user. And here we have input type is equal to text. I will put a placeholder saying that name in block letters. Block letters. So let's run this and see. Name in block letters. Now what is our intention is actually that placeholder is displayed only when there is no information inside it. Once you start typing the information, you can see that placeholder will not be there. That's the reason sometimes what we want to do is when they click inside the text box and they started typing something inside it. That means when it gets focus, we want to display some message. Then what we do is we write an event on focus. On focus, so show alert. Okay. Similarly, on blur, change case, like this we return. For this text box, we are having ID. Txt name. Okay. Now we have to write two scripts. And we want to display the message message below. ID as MSG. Okay. Data definition ID MSG. The first one is show alert function. Show alert. So here we have to define show alert. A simple concept like document dot get element by ID MSG dot inner HTML. We should display message name in block letters only. That's the message. And when it loses the focus, that means change case. Change case will fire up when blur. Blur means when it control loses the focus. Document get element by ID MSG dot inner HTML empty. And we need to collect the text box. Txt name is equal to document get element by ID txt name dot value. And here we need to define document dot get element by ID txt name dot value is equal to txt name. That means whatever the value entered in the text box, the same value will be displayed in the same text box again, but this time to uppercase. We will display in uppercase. Now you see what happens is when I click inside the text box, then it gets focus. When it gets focus, it will display the message. I entered something. I am not entering capital letters. Some name I have entered, not in capital letters. But when I click outside, means it loses the focus. When it loses the focus, it will convert that into uppercase and it will hide that message. I click inside that again, then again the message will come. I am continuing here and I click outside, then it will be displayed. You can write on key up, key down event also. If I write on key up, immediately while typing itself, it will change. Immediately while typing itself, it will change it and it will display. That's the option action. So we have to handle this. So immediately on typing, you want to change or you want to configure after blur or focus. So blur indicates when it loses the focus. Focus indicates when it gets the focus. We have these two events, on blur, on focus. Next we have very important on submit and on reset. This submit and reset will work only for form element. We have to write for form element. For form element, we have to define on submit and on reset. For form element, we have to configure it. So generally, these will work for submit and reset buttons only. Suppose you kept this entire in a form and form have buttons. I given the button here, one button. Type is submit. By default, button is submit only, register. Another button. So the type is so reset. This is some cancel or reset. Now by default, submit and reset buttons have some function. They have some functionality. By default, they have some functionality. If you want to define any additional functionality, because already we know that submit and reset buttons in the form, they by default have the ability to submit default have the ability to reset. Now, if you want some extra work to be done, then what you can do is in the form you have to write on submit. On submit, we have to define like what functionality it should happen. You can write a separate function, or I will just put an alert saying that form submitted. Actually, what we will do is in later concept, we will send this data to some server side technology. How to do that, I will tell you. In later stage, we will do that. Similarly, on reset, I will put an alert saying that form will reset. That's the message. Now you can see here, I am typing something, some name, and after that, I click on reset button. When I click on the reset button, then it will show an alert, form will reset. When I click OK, it will reset the form. I entered some name, I click on register. Then it will submit the form. And on submit, it will perform some function. So by default, submit and reset buttons have some work. By default, they have some work. But if you want some additional work to perform, some extra functionality to perform, then you can go with the submit and reset. Generally, it will be like submitting data to the database, posting to API, such things we have to do. That we will learn in the next level, how we can create APIs, submit data to APIs and all we will see. But these are very important. Now in interviews, one question is asked like, majority of interviews for fresher level, this question is very common. The regularly asked question is, so can we submit form using another control? So without submit button, that is the question actually. Can we submit form using any another control without submit button? Generally, form can be submitted only with submit button. But in interviews, the question asked is, without submit button, how to submit the form? That is another very important condition. So without submit, how you can submit the form? Actually, that is reasonable also. Why? Because suppose you see now, I am designing a form. Let me create a submit.html. Create a separate page here. Doc type HTML head title submit demo. In the body section, we have a form, and in that I given some label. So and say username, and here I kept a div text box input type is equal to text. It is having the name username, and actually I am defining another div. Here I put a drop down, so label, select city, and we put a drop down, and we have an option like Delhi. We have an option like Hyderabad, like this. We have an option Chennai, like this. Now what should happen here is, when user selects a city, when user selects a city, then form must be submitted. Actually, this city, I will give city, name, city. Okay. Generally, without submit button, you cannot submit. I will show you that page. So without submit button, you cannot submit actually. You need a submit button. I will keep this in the next slide. Now the question asked in interviews is on drop down change. When I select, I entered the name and I select a city, then form must submit. Generally, we have to wait until submit button is clicked. But immediately when this is changed, I want to submit. In that case, how to manage that? It's very simple actually. What we have to do is we have to write event on change. On change, city change. Okay. City change is the function. And this form should have a reference name. ID. I will give the ID as FRM home. Any name you can give. So now what? FRM register. Okay. Now I need to write a script and the function city change. When city is changed, I have to submit the form. Then we have to access document.getElement by ID, FRM register, that is form, dot submit. You have to write the dot submit. That means form will submit. That is the function action. But usually form can be accessed by using reference name. This is submit. You observe now. I entered name. I select a city. Then the form is submitted. You can see in the URL, the form is submitted. Without submit button, it is able to submit the form and it's data. Many times we need this. You can access by ID or by you can access by name. Use the submit method for that. What submit method can do is the submit method can submit the form data. It can easily submit the form data. That's very important. So you can do this on drop down. You can do this on radio change or checkbox change, any event. For ordinary button also, you can make it submit. So if anybody asks like, can we submit form using any, so this is the question, regularly asked question. Answer is yes. So you have to use form submit, that means document, get element by ID, form ID, and dot submit. Submit is the method we have to fire. This will be able to submit the form. It will able to submit the form. So we can submit the form by using this technique. This is general submit. So how the form submit works and how the form submit is used. So without submit button also, form can be submitted. For that you have to use this technique. So these are all very important basic events actually. Now in the latest JavaScript onwards, so we are using touch events. We have touch events, but these touch events are required for mobile development. When you are building application for mobiles, JavaScript is used for building mobile application also. But for that, you need to learn separate mobile frameworks. Mobile frameworks like people who are learning Android, iOS, and like Ionic, native script, such frameworks are there. When people learn Android, iOS like things, they have to learn JavaScript also. And if you already have knowledge of JavaScript, some more additional things related to mobile you have to learn. Those technologies will teach you. But in such type of devices, touch events are very common. Touch events are very popular. Touch events, nothing but they define actions to perform when user touch the screen. These you can test only when your computer supports touch, your device supports touch. If you already have touch screens on, then you can try this. Actually, for that we have the option, same like mouse, like on, touch, touch, start. We have like on, touch, end. We have like on, touch, touch, move, like this. One simple option I will show you how to handle that. You see now, suppose I am designing a simple screen. So let's put some images here. So I will keep a image source is equal to some public assets, some shirt.jpg. So width and height. And that is one image. This image is having some ID, some shirt, that is the ID. Now similarly, I have another image. ID, Nike, SRC, public assets, shoe.jpg. Width and height. When user touch any of those images, I want to display the details here, paragraph in the paragraph. First, how do we know whether it is touched or not? Actually, we have to use an event on touch start. So on touch start, we have to say get details. That is the function. Here also on touch start. So get details. So the same function for both of them. We will write a function here, get details. This function will fire when touch starts. So first, temporarily, I want to get all the event arguments. Event arguments, object related properties here, event arguments. We will pass event here. We will pass event. We will collect that event. I want to print all the event properties. So for where property in E console.log, I want to print the property. And you see now here, I will go to inspect, and in the console, I touch on any particular shoe. You see so many events here. Event properties here. In the event properties, you see there is an attribute called target. Target attribute can get the object related information. That means what I will do is, suppose I will use e.target. That means it will get target related information when I touch. You see, target related, so many details are there. In those details, target related details, you will have like its ID, name, value, everything. You can access. You see ID. ID is there. We can access that. So what we will do now here, we will just put here. So a simple logic, switch. Into the switch, we will pass e dot target dot ID. And here we will put a case. If ID is shut, then document dot query selector. You must access the paragraph in that we have to display. So shut, that means suppose 70% off on men's clothing. So shirts, like shirts, so like jeans, something like this. And we will put a break. And if another case is like document dot query selector. So the inner HTML, I'll say, suppose some sale. So some 80% off. So like footwear. Like this we define and a break. So that is based on ID we want to display. Now very important, I click on it, it's not working. Because you written touch event. And the touch event will work when you touch that particular image through your screen, touch screen. You have to use your touch screen and then touch on it, it should get the detail. I touched on footwear, it will get that like footwear. And I touch on shirt, it will get that shirt and display. That means this time we are not using mouse, we are using touch. These type of things you cannot practice also until or unless you have touch screens. So you have to know how to handle. Rest of examples are same like mouse. You can write touch move when touch is moving. So you can get its x-axis, y-axis. Just like yesterday you can show a picture. Such things we can manage. But these are related to touch. How to handle and work with the touch events. This is basically touch. So we have these options for touch. Touch start. But when you are learning mobile technologies, there you will use them for building mobile applications and all. You will learn about it. Actually, for that you have to learn Android, iOS like things. Then you can handle it. But example in how to handle the touch events and work with it. So these are all the important browser events of JavaScript. how to handle various interactions. Another important, you have learned extra touch events, and we have timer events. Timer events also. While working with the date time, I given one small example. But timer events you have to learn perfectly. In JavaScript, timer events advantage is they can do any specific task at regular time intervals. They can handle the task at regular time intervals. Now, let's see. Timer related events, we have set timeout, clear timeout, set interval, clear interval. These are the timer related events. Timer related events. So what are these? Set timeout, clear timeout, set interval, clear interval. Let's see. These are all timer related things. How to manage them? Now I will go to this page and I will create one timer HTML. See, to understand that, I will give you a sample example. Suppose we have the document head title timer demo. We have a heading align to center, and in the head section we will write on body load. Body load. We will write function body load script. Function body load, and we are defining the events. So one is function, some MSG1, message one. Here document dot query selector heading one. I will put a message hello, and another function MSG2 document dot query selector heading one dot inner HTML. In that I say how are you? Just for your understanding sake, I will give here message one, and here I will give message two, and one more function message three document dot query selector heading one inner HTML. Welcome to JavaScript, and this is message 3. Now I will call all these messages in body load. In the body load, MSG1, MSG2, and MSG3. We are calling all the three. Now, when I run this, you will observe that only the last message will be displayed. Now, the doubt is whether all messages working or not. Actually, all messages are working. Only the problem is They are so fast, one after another, that only the last message is displayed to you. Others are overwritten fastly. That means it's working, but they are overriding. So the messages are overwritten. So because they are printing all at same place into the heading, they are overwritten. This is actually one issue. That's generally the issue. How do we handle that issue? How do we manage that? All messages are executing one after another and not waiting very fast. We can make these messages wait for some time. We can wait for some time. So then what we have to do is to make them wait for some time. We have to use set timeout. Set timeout indicates that the action will be performed after specific duration of time. That means it will load the task into memory and keep it waiting in memory. It will load the task into memory and keep it waiting in the memory for some time. Once the time is elapsed, then automatically it will execute the task so that you can make the task wait for each other for some time in memory. So how to do? You can simply write like this. Set timeout, set timeout. So MSG1 function name, that's it. And comma, how much time? It should be in memory. How much time to wait? It should wait 2 seconds, 2000 milliseconds. Similarly, set timeout, MSG2. It should wait 4 seconds. Remember, all are loaded at a time into memory. In that case, this duration difference between first message and second message is 2 seconds only. Why? Because all are loaded into memory at a time. When all are loaded into memory at a time, then the difference between the first and second is 2 seconds only, because first is 2 seconds, second is 4 seconds. Similarly, set timeout. So message 3 I will keep as some 8 milliseconds, 8000 milliseconds. That means 4 seconds difference between the second and third. Now observe carefully here. I will refresh here. First message, hello, that is message 1. Second message, how are? After that, welcome to JavaScript. Now you can see the messages waiting for each other. But remember, they will execute only once. After that, they are removed from memory. If you want to execute again, you have to write again. You have to define again. So it will execute only once. So it will load into memory. It will execute only once. After that, it is removed from the memory. So when I refresh, you can see it is executed. But once it is loaded into memory, before executing, if you want to stop it, you can do that. For example, we have to declare a global variable here. Suppose I will create var m1, m2, and m3. This first function will be stored in m1. Second function will be stored in m2. Third function in m3. What is the advantage of this? You can access these functions outside. And see, I am writing a button below it. and button is cancel message to. I'm giving like this. On that button click, on click is equal to cancel click. Let's write the function here, cancel click. We have to write the function, and the function is cancel click. On cancel click, what we want to do is we want to cancel the second task. Then you can use clear interval, clear timeout. Clear timeout, MSG to M2. That means the message to which is loaded into the memory, it will be cleared. That we have to define clear time. So clear timeout is going to clear that second message from memory. But remember, you have to do that before it is executed. If not, it will execute automatically. You see, I am refreshing the page. Message 1, message 2, and message 3 all are coming. So you click refresh. Message 1 came. Automatically message 2 comes. Message 3 also comes. But I want to cancel the message 2 that you have to click before it is executed. I will refresh here. Message 1 came. Click cancel button. Second message cancel. Directly third message will come. So you can remove any task from memory. And to remove any task from the memory, so you have to use this. So that is removing the task from memory. For that you have to use clear timeout. Clear time. But to clear timeout, whatever the set timeouts you are defining, they should be stored in a memory reference. You should store them in memory reference. Then only you can access. You can access and you can apply this option. But the problem with timeout is it executes only once. If you want it to execute repeatedly, then continuously, then we can use set interval. This already I told you. When we learned about date time concept, I showed you. Set interval, clear interval. Set interval is nothing but it can do the task continuously, one after another. That means repeats the same work again and again. For every few seconds, it will do that work. That is actually done by set interval. This already I showed you when we learned about date concept. When we learned about date object, I showed you how to display the current time, how we can show the current time. And the time must be ticking. Every second it should tick and display. That you can manage by using this clear intervals, set interval and clear interval. So we have to handle it. Generally, what is the purpose and how it works? One small point we have to learn. So let's see. So let's create a simple block like in here. I will remove these functions. Only heading is there initially. And I will access here function first get time. Actually, get time. I will create where now is equal to new date. It will store the current date and time. In that where time is equal to now dot to local time string. It will get only time. Okay. Once it gets the time, what we want display inside that heading document.query selector. Display that inside the heading H1 dot inner HTML, we have to display the time, whatever the time collected. And this should load on body load. So that means function body load. On body load, we have to call get time. But you can see that on body load, when I call that get time, it is going to display that time. But the time is not ticking. That means it's not changing. The time is not ticking, it's not changing. Why? Because at the time of loading the page, what time is present, the same time will come. If you want to change that, then what you have to do is you have to configure and define this get time. We have to give it to set interval method. So that we have to give that get time, and it should execute every 1000 milliseconds. That means it should execute every 1000 milliseconds. Means every second. That means what is difference between timeout and interval? Timeout once executes, after executing it will stop. But interval, it executes, after executing, it will load that again into memory so that it will continue. So that's important. So let's see how it manages. So you can see now the time is ticking here. That means every second it is changing. Of course, if you want, you can stop the time and again restart the time. Remember, this is system time. Even if you stop, it will start from the current time, whatever the current time is going to display. But you can stop the time. What you can do is you can keep clear interval. So you have to put an option, say pause. So I'll say stop. And another button is start. So here on click is equal to stop click. And here on click is equal to start click. And we are defining the function here. For that, we need to access this in the memory. We will declare a global variable. Why? Because if anything is present inside that timer, so timer is equal to inside the function, it is accessible only in that function. Already we learned we can use a window object also. Window object is nothing but it will declare a global variable inside the function. So you see now here, so this is the time interval. I will click on stop click, function stop click, and the function on stop click. So clear interval, it should clear the timer related interval. And again, the function start click, on start click, you can call body load again. In that again timer will start. See now it is ticking. And when I click on this stop, then it will stop the timer. Timer stops. It's not ticking anymore. And when I click start, it will not start where it stopped. So it will start from the current time again. Current time, how much it will start. Why? Because this is not a stop clock actually. This is not a stop clock. So this is a general system time. That's the reason it will be keep on ticking. And it will get the recent time and this. So that is basically how the timer event works. So for this one example, I will upload it to Classroom. You try. The Classroom example is nothing but how we can change pictures dynamically. That means every 5 seconds, we can design like a slideshow. We can design like a carousel. Every 5 seconds, the image will be changing. Or some text is changing. Such things we can manage. So which we can do by using these timer events. Those examples, already I posted you the examples of browser events. You go through them. Some more I will upload now, so that you can easily handle. These are all the event related options, event related features. So how the events are configured and how the events are executed. So this is basically one small concept you need to understand about the timer events. You can put in various examples. I will give you one example here. First show, see. Let's create a small concept. I hope we designed this in the general date concept. When we learned about the date data type and how to work with the date data type. In that date data type, so I given you about that concept. But one more time I will show you here how that works. That means how we can manage some events. For example, see, I'm creating every few seconds some image should change or something should happen here. Actually, we will add a new file. Let's add a new file, some slideshow .html. So let's create some doc type HTML head title slideshow. Now here we are creating the body, and then let's create a simple div. And inside that, I am keeping image ID as pic. Okay, so width some 100% and height some 100 pixel. And we will create a script and we will design an array of images. So where images is equal to some images, assets, where it is present in assets only, current location you have to know. Assets are public, in public assets. Okay. So dot slash public slash assets slash so shoe dot jpg. So that is one image. Similarly, other images. We can copy this and I will paste. And this is shoe1.jpg. So here we have shirt.jpg. Like this, let's have some images. Speaker.jpg. Okay, some speaker.jpg. Like this, we have some images. Now what we should do is when body loads. So function body load. On body load, We have to access and use them. And a display inside this. So width I will give 30% height. So and width 100, just roughly. And on body load, you have to display these images inside that image. Now, important, every few seconds it should change. So we will implement a simple logic here. We'll configure the simple logic. So function, slideshow. It's nothing but first I will declare a global variable where count is equal to 0 and the document get element by id pick dot src is equal to images of count. That means images of count means it will get the 0. 0 means first one. That path will be applied. After that, so count plus plus. This means count should be increased. This I want to do at regular intervals. That means what I am doing here. Set interval call slideshow and put 1000 milliseconds or say 5000 milliseconds. And you can see on body load generally here the image must display every 4 seconds. That image must display and get it. But here the path is important and configuring the path. You see here we have a problem in loading this. Actually, so let's see where the problem. Slideshow set interval. It gets images of count 0. Let's check whether it is working fine or not. Onload we haven't given up. Okay. Body onload is equal to body load. Okay. Now the 5 seconds the image will come. After 5 seconds the image will change. Every 5 seconds the image is changing. We are changing the image. Now you have to write condition because after that also the count continuously increases. Then you see then error will come. Undefined error will come. Every 5 seconds error will come. We know how to handle that. What we have to do to handle that, we have to write a condition. That means if count is greater than the length of images, then stop. Then set again to 0. Like that we can keep it rotating. You can keep with animation. You have learned a lot of transition animation effects. You can keep it coming from right or left. You can display with animation. We already done that manually. Manually means with the arrow keys, means with the buttons, left button, right button, click, previous click, next click. Manually we can do. This is automatic. Every few seconds it will be changing and it will be displaying. So on body load, suppose we define document dot get element. So already we want to display some message slideshow happening on. We can start not only body load on button click, you can pause. For example, I will put here status. I will keep the status. That means I will put a paragraph above and I will put a paragraph below. and the button. This is start, pause, and this is start. Actually, this ID is like MSG. So actually, what should happen is when the body loads, we will not start the slideshow. Just we need to display default image. Document.getElement by ID pic.src is equal to images of 0. On body load images of 0, first one will go. When I click start, the slideshow should start. Then what we do is, so we write on click, start click, and pause on click. We have to say pause click. We need to define that start click, pause click. And here we need to write a function. So start click. On start click, that slideshow should start. So we will declare a global variable also, where show. So here show is equal to, so set interval. It should access slideshow and every 5 seconds. And document.getElement by ID msg.innerhtml. So slideshow running. That's the status. And we will say stop click. On stop click, we have to say clear time interval. Clear interval show. And it should display the message. Document get element by ID msg.innerhtml is equal to slideshow pause. That message should come. And you can see that message is being displayed here when I click on start. When I click on start, then it says slideshow running. Then every 5 seconds it will be changing. So it should change. Every 5 seconds it is changing. And when I click on pause, then it should pause. That means we need to display a separate message there. So slideshow paused and display there. And we are clearing the interval also. We are clearing the interval. So because already slideshow is continuously running, so to clear that interval, what you have to do is first we need to write an iterator there. So the iterator will define, means if condition you have to write there. If it is greater than 0, then it should set to 0 again. Means greater than length, it should set to 0 again. This already complete design I given you into the classroom. You can try them. These are all just like examples already. Let's see, one example is there already. You just with the bootstrap and all you can slideshow. So there are some examples of that. This is the example. See, we added this bootstrap I click on play, what will happen is it says slideshow start and it will keep on changing the images and its information. That means the details will come. We take a case around when I click pause button, it will be paused. And again I click on play, it will start. That's the general example. So this is same concept we have done. Now this already I given in the notes. Once verify that I given in the notes about this how to create it. Already in the notes it is there. Here we have timer. This we have an array and we have to write get product by its index. On body load it will be 0. When slideshow clicked, count will be incremented by plus and get the product and pass that count value. That will send that new count value which will get the details. Here we are having name and photo. Photo is displayed in the center and name will be displayed on that title. This is general example. This is for controlling our concept with the timer. We have clear interval and set it. These are general things. So how we can manage and handle the timer events. So these are all browser events related concepts. Now once you know how to handle these browser events, everywhere the same browser events are used. Means whether you are learning events once you know everything in JavaScript. So this makes the complete information about what JavaScript is required for web development. Now, but I already told you in real time development, we don't directly use JavaScript because it is too complex. What we generally do is we use jQuery. By using jQuery, we have to manage everything. So by using jQuery, we have to manage. So now what is jQuery? We have to understand. And how jQuery can make the difference. Now it will not take much time to understand jQuery because all JavaScript only. Some shortcut techniques will come now. If you learn those shortcut techniques, then you can build the same example, whatever you learned in JavaScript with less coding. We can manage that. That we will see in our next session. Okay, but one important is before going to jQuery, now you have to learn another concept, Sass. First we will learn about Sass, then we will go into jQuery. Sass is related to CSS, but it requires a little bit programming. That's the reason we have to first learn programming, then go into Sass, then jQuery, right? What is Sass and how Sass works and how it makes the CSS better? That we will see in our next session. Tomorrow we will do that, okay? In tomorrow's session, we will start working with Sass